And welcome back to the BigCheese AI podcast. My name is DeAndre Hericus, one of the world's top moderators, joined by Brandon Corbin, Jacob Wise, and a special, very special guest. We have our first TikTok influencer, sales leader. I mean, seriously, guys, when I first found her before, like, I didn't know she was coming on the podcast. And then Jacob's like, hey, this is the person joining on Thursday. And I'm like a little starstruck. I'm like, oh my gosh, just like I've literally watched this person's sales content and I watched your video, made a sales script off of it. So it's super excited to have you, McKenna Elizabeth. So we'd love for you to just intro yourself real quick and we can get rolling.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. My name is McKenna Elizabeth and I've worked in different tech roles or tech companies for the past 5 years in sales and customer success and account management, and have lived in Indianapolis for about the same amount of time. So.
Where were you before Indy?
Northern Indiana, just like out in the corn.
Right.
You know, there was not a whole lot.
Is it the region or is it the other
side?
side?
That's what everybody says. No one told me it was called the region until I got here. I'm like, well, I guess.
Well, hold on. What's the region?
It's like anything near Chicago is kind of how I understand it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That up northwest area.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then the TikTok, the TikTok work that you've been doing, was it, you said that was about 5 years ago? Or?
Well, so when I started, I was in a sales role for a IT professional services company that didn't have marketing. And so I was like, okay, well, how do I like start marketing our services? So I started using TikTok as a way to edit videos to post on LinkedIn so that my clients
Sorry, wait. Hold on. We got to delve into that a little bit. So you found TikTok's phone editing, or we can play footsie, it's okay. The TikTok editing features was good enough for you that you just wanted to use it for the editing of the videos to then share across other platforms.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't even trying to do anything with TikTok.
Interesting.
Really.
It is pretty amazing of a tool in terms of editing on your phone. Right.
Is,
like, I mean, they've crammed a lot of great functionality into a very small user interface. So that's cool. So sorry, anyway.
Yeah. So I started doing that, creating the videos. I posted them on LinkedIn, and I might with clients or prospects and things would be like, oh yeah, I saw your video or whatever else. So it started to become like just a good marketing thing to do. And then I moved and worked for a SaaS company and took a job in customer success, and I was like, I didn't even know that this job existed. I'm gonna start talking about it. Right. So I started, telling people about it because my degree is actually in elementary education. So I didn't, there's this whole transition of like all the careers out there that I never knew about that I wish somebody had told me about.
Right.
Customer success being one of them because it's great for people with education type personalities that like, training and implement things like that. And then, so I started making videos about that and started doing like paid partnerships and stuff with different certifications and productivity tools and things like that. And then moved in to sales within that same company and then started talking about software sales and things like that. And yeah, it's just been a fun journey.
So would you say that almost your entire persona online is around sales?
Yeah, so right now that's purely what I have really divulged. I've talked over the years. I've talked about careers. I've talked about different roles in tech. I've even done some partnerships with AWS to talk about different certifications you get in the cloud and things like that. But the past 6 months to a year has been really sales focused.
And so, but education was kind of what you were aiming for in terms of you wanted to be a teacher. And so what if you don't mind me prodding a little bit, what happened there? You decided not to pursue that.
Yeah, so first of all, I grew up in a small town. Like I told you, the corn of Indiana, and so I didn't really know really what my options were.
That's fair. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Right.
And especially being women, you see women in teaching, nursing, or mom roles. That's okay, well those are my options. And so I went into education because of that. And towards the end, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is a lot. This is a lot. And I went to Indiana Wesleyan University.
Same.
For anybody that knows, who's listened for a while, you might have heard that this is actually happening in the Indiana Wesleyan. One of the buildings is where the podcast studio is.
Yeah. And so
Wildcats.
yeah.
Is that what they're called, the Wildcats?
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but I graduated with a lot of student loan debt, and I had scholarships and all that. But I graduated with so much debt that it was I couldn't even be a teacher if I wanted to be.
Right.
And so kind of doing the math on that, my senior year, being like, okay, we're gonna have to figure something else out. Right. And it was fine because I was kind of like leaning away from it anyway. So that's when I started my first role ever. I found through LinkedIn, and I was an IT recruiter, so I recruited software developers, data analysts.
So recruiting was where you landed, but was that not something that you actually like long term saw yourself doing?
It was kind of like my pathway to sales, because that's really kind of where I wanted to be.
Right. That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah, well, I saw on your LinkedIn you went to Indiana Wesleyan. I didn't know if it was like a master's or what have you. So yeah, shout out to being Wildcat. This episode we're talking about the AI salesman. Mm-hmm. And look, we get a lot of sales emails. Jacob got one the other day, and it literally still had like the part of ChatGPT that like summarizes what it gave you at the bottom of the email. And so in your experience, like you're in this world, right? You're a thought leader. You're leading people right now. You led me when I went out to go do cold calling, which is so cool. Like, what's your advice? What platforms are you seeing that actually are beneficial? And like being in the AI, in the sales space with AI, like how is it actually augmenting the sales process as a salesperson?
So I'm a big advocate for Sales Loft. I use that every day, and they have a lot of AI features within Sales Loft, specifically that I use to make me more efficient. So like after my calls, it'll summarize all the action items, and I can boom, put them in an email, send it off to the customer, maybe tweak it a little bit, things like that. It's looking at, how often are my customers clicking on websites, and it's like pinging me. I can see how often they've opened my emails and all of that. I can see content, data sheets that they're engaging with, consensus, demo videos, all of those things. And then it's actually making a to-do list for me based on that data that it's pulling in.
And this is Sales Loft. So salesloft.com.
Yes.
Would they be a competitor to HubSpot, Salesforce?
They sit on top of Salesforce, kind of, so it's like a really UI, like the UI is just super,
so they made a very sales-focused experience that basically sits on top of Salesforce.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
I'm sure it sits on top of other products too.
But it can integrate with your Salesforce and all of your data there.
Yeah.
So.
A couple of things that you said that kind of stood out to me was when people think about AI, they're always like, oh, it's magic. It can do everything for me.
Right.
All I have to do is just tell it, go, here's a list of people, go sell to them now. And what it sounds like you're using it for, which makes more sense to me, is like augmenting and telling you like the just-in-time actions of like, hey, this person is clicking the website. Maybe it's a good time to reach back out to them after this email, or like, how are you seeing it of like creating or building onto relationships and like using it as like that augmentation of what you're already good at, which is building relationships and communicating to people?
How am I seeing it, like building on that?
Yeah. Well, like in what ways is it adding value to you on a daily basis of, oh, I was able to sell this or be more enabled because of this feature, or that's how you're using it to get to more people faster?
Yeah, I think buyer behavior is just getting full visibility to that, and then that AI component where it's actually taking all of those data points and then organizing my to-do list. Hey, you should spend more time on this deal because we're getting all these points that's saying that this customer is likely to buy based on all their behavior that we're getting from emails, websites, all of that.
Yeah.
So I really like that predictive piece of it. But I think, even like writing cadences, right? Like a series flow of emails, like it's not a replacement for that. Like I wouldn't have AI write all of my cadences, but it definitely eliminates like that writer's block that you get sometimes where you can just tweak it. But I'm more, I don't know about you guys, but like I like shorter, sweeter, to the point type of emails.
Yeah.
And just like a couple sentences, boom, boom, boom. Right. And AI could go on for days. It could go on.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I even had it just kind of testing. I was like, write me, a sales email to like a new potential prospect and with a golf humor. And like it had like integrated golf puns throughout the whole email. It's like funny how, it could just do that, tone.
Yeah, I was actually using it today to write an email to a client. So I did a whole estimate, and I was like, okay, now I have to tell them I did the estimate and like what the next steps are. And it was so verbose, but it was still good as like, here's my starting point. And it got me past that initial writer's block of looking at a blank page and like, okay, how do I even start this thing? So all I did was tell it like, here's the points that I want to say. It's a follow up on this.
Yeah.
Here's why I'm doing it and why I'm resending this. So it was just like one of those instances where it's just like reduces that cognitive load and helps me get unstuck, and now I can move on to things that I want to do, which is not write emails.
Did it work?
It worked great.
All right,
I used
good.
Claude 3, by the way.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
One of the questions that I had was, so we can get off on tangents,
Yeah, we can. Sorry.
and
Back in.
oh, we might not be. Don't worry, I'm not going that direction. In the first couple of episodes of the Big Cheese Pod, like we're going deep into like people going to lose their jobs, right? And we went directly towards marketers. There's been AI platforms at this point, and over the next 24 months, will be created for everything: software developers, salespeople. But you brought up a good point in that, and I agree with you. The augmentation of what you're doing and helping you maybe gather data and summarize it in a better way for you to then go make better emails to go write a sequence. But how far are we away? This is just be an estimate, just whatever you think of, because right now, if you just let ChatGPT write the email, it's going to be clear that it wrote the email. Do you see a future where like that actual sequence is completely written by AI and is almost like unnoticeable to the receiver? Or like, what is your opinion on that? Like, how is it even close to what you can actually do?
I'd like to see, so, there's some tools out there they'll really analyze your writing style and how you frame information and then start to write as though it were you. And that's what I'd like to see, because I don't think we're going to get to a point where it's obvious. I mean, it would be great if you could, but if it was looking at how I frame things and maybe like not being as wordy, and it could be more to the point and things like that, and it could take on my tone, I'd really like to see it sort of like morph to me more than just like take over everyone's roles or
Right. So I guess that kind of stacks on to the next question, which is like, then we go to chatbots in customer service.
Yeah.
And we're a little bit more adapt to responding to a bot, but with AI, like, how do you think that's going to be augmented? Because you said you started in customer service, or at some point you were involved with it, right?
So customer success is a little bit different in that it's more of like account management, and it's more of like product adoption more than like resolving tickets or errors or things like that. But with customer service, so a lot of my customers are e-commerce. They're selling on Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, whatever else. And so they've had the ability to kind of outsource a lot of those initial questions to the chatbots, or at least remove that tier 1 level of support, which I think is more of just a money saver than anything.
Right.
But I think ultimately what would be really cool is if there was like sort of like a self-service type of portal that customers could go in, like even asking like order statuses, updates, like that would be where you have data from all of your systems, and maybe it's not all accessible to the customer, but that you could, even as like maybe a higher level customer service person, pull data from Zendesk and from Salesforce and from your shipping, your 3PL, whatever it is, and have visibility to all of that at once, so you could really like answer a complex question pretty quickly.
Yeah. We talk about that quite a bit of like, first of all, we think the place that makes the most sense to implement AI is back office. So people who are helping customers and getting to asking or answering questions, those types of tools are coming, and he actually works with a company. I'll let you tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, same premise though, is that again, we've just seen enough where if you give customers direct access to your AI, that they're going to make it do stupid things, right? So like having that barrier and say, okay, our customer service reps, they absolutely should be augmented with AI. They should absolutely be able to ask those questions, because they can then go and say, oh, well, I see that it's hallucinating. Let's not go ahead and do this, right? And we're seeing that too with another one of my clients, is that a lot of the work we think is really in all of the back office stuff. There's a lot of great things that you can do in terms of leveraging AI that is not as high risk of exposing it at the customer level. Because that one, man, that just scares the hell out of me every time. It's just like, you're going to release a chat bot. You're basically letting people like directly interact with a large language model. They're going to do it. They're going to. I mean, because I would. Like every time that I have access to try to screw around with somebody's searches, I want to hack it, right? And I know that I'm not alone, and that everybody else, like when Microsoft did the first, I always talk about this one, but the Microsoft released one on Twitter years and years ago. And they, by the end of the day, it was talking like Hitler, and they had to shut it down because again, everybody just figured out, oh well, if you say this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you can. So they're going to manipulate it, and it's like all these people never been on Reddit and never realize or 4chan and realize like how bottom feeding majority of the people on the internet are. And so that's why I think having that buffer until, again, let the companies like OpenAI and Microsoft and the ones who have the resources allow people to interface directly with a large language model. But if I was a company, I would be like, yeah, you need to put some serious guardrails onto this stuff.
Yeah, and we had Aubrey Anon on, who is a enterprise level consultant on the technical side, and just dove into what data swamps, is that what we said?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
made up that term. And so 100%, but there's like a huge barrier in that, like, at least to the degree I understood it, which is like that much compared to this much. Like to do something like that, and like what you mentioned, to be able to come back with this very complex, precise answer based off all the different systems, it's really, really difficult. So there's an idea. We can go build that as the next startup. So last episode, we dove a lot into the ethics of AI, right? And we were all over the place. So if you listen to it, I hope you had fun listening to that. But is there any ethical considerations to be had?
And sales?
Look.
Hey now.
Look.
Hey, I'm just saying. It's sales, baby.
But you know, like, from the perspective of this, okay, there's probably a reality where we can get so much data on someone, and these big companies can gather that data and then serve that up to a sales rep, where it's almost like you're, taking candy from a baby, potentially. Sales are never easy, right? But like, are there any ethical things to consider when we're adopting AI in terms of like how we're approaching a client or just how you're using it in the sales process? Is there any kind of like red flags that you're seeing at all in the industry?
Yeah. I mean, well, Amazon and Facebook and Google are all doing it, so I think it's going to be really hard to, to put boundaries around that unless you do it for everybody.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I know that there's a lot of people working on that. But I think like specifically with sales, right? Like cold calling, like, is it ethical to have an AI bot cold call somebody? Like,
Well,
is
didn't
there,
they just
regulation?
just passed the regulation that says no robocalls from an AI bot. Now,
Right.
again, that's in the U.S. That's not going to stop, every other country to be calling us and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, from an ethical side, ethics and sales don't necessarily align. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing, right? Like, again, our job as a salesperson is to extract money from this person by selling them something, whether they need it or not. Right? Like, again, that's
Or provide. I don't
You
know
and
if
I
we
are
agree
very
with that.
yeah. No. I mean, but I'm not saying this is a bad thing. Again, there's a lot of salespeople that are out there that I want to just make the money, and that's totally fine. Like, I'm not judging anybody for doing that. And again, what's the saying where there's a fool born every minute or whatever it is.
Tree, bear in the woods, or something like that.
Something like that.
High tides raise all shit.
I'm just gonna start throwing out random shit. But the robocall thing, I totally get. Like, I'm not one to like a lot of regulation just for the sake of regulation, right?
Yeah.
Like, again, I've got people calling me up from India saying that they're in Norfolk and that their name's Susan, and it's bullshit.
Yeah.
And so, like, I know that, and we know that we're going to just start seeing that from an AI sales call standpoint. So I don't know. I struggle with the whole ethics thing in AI as it is, but from a sales standpoint, yeah. Can you think of anything that it's like other than maybe robocalls that would be?
I mean, Zoom
sketchy?
has a lot to gain, right? Like, Zoom is hosting all of these meetings and having, access, quote unquote, to, all of this buyer knowledge. So if you're they would have a lot to gain from selling the data or whatever
Right.
else.
Yeah.
So it'll be, but it's interesting because even if you're recording a meeting, right? That other person gets a notification that you're recording, and they have to accept it and all of that. And so it's like, well, is there going to be all of these like sort of like accept, like you can use my data for sales? I mean, I feel like there would have to be some sort of like agreement.
Yeah.
So what's interesting is, I'm cheap. I don't like to pay for anything.
Yeah.
I would spend 2 months building something so I don't have to pay like $2.99 a month for it,
Yeah.
right? But one of the things that I've set up now is my own recording process. So when I'm on a call, I can just hit record. It's going to record the whole conversation, and it's going to, at the end of it, it's going to then take that, it's going to transcribe it using a lot of the same process that we do for the podcast. And then I'll go through and I'll turn that into like cleaned up show notes and like the takeaways and whatever other things that might have come up from it. And for me, that's just been like an absolute game changer. But nobody has any idea. Right. This isn't because I'm recording just the audio on my computer.
Right.
Right. I'm not, and it's not going out. It's all using my local large language models. So I'm not like sending all this data to OpenAI. It's all completely private.
It's just one-way consent, right? Like, or one-party consent.
But it's an interesting question, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm doing. Is what I'm doing
You
legal?
just committed a felony on camera,
I might
probably.
have, right? Like I might have. I don't know if those recording things actually apply to on. It obviously does through the phone, right? Because again, telecom is its own beast. But does those same laws of like if you're in a state of California where you need 2 people buy-in? Sorry, this is a complete sidetrack.
Oh yeah.
But I'm kind of curious if anybody knows, leave it in the comments. That if you're doing a Zoom call, does that fall in the same jurisdiction of recording when 1 or 2 party requirement states? I don't know. Yeah.
I'm interested in
find
like
out.
the data training aspect of it because like Zoom, you kind of made me think of a good point of like Zoom has all this data. They can probably analyze the video and be like, that person said this person reacted positively because facial expressions and all that. And you can also like mark that as, oh, that was a sale. This meeting ended in a sale. Same thing with Sales Loft. You could totally train all that data on these are the emails that got me the best responses. And I'm sure they're doing that now. In Sales Loft, can you literally say like this email was well received or like something like that?
You can see like track opened rates and successive campaigns. And all that.
So like over time, those companies will win because they're going to have a bunch of data and they're going to say that they kind of know what that user looks like. So this type of user responded well to this type of email, and they'll build up a database at some point. And who owns that data? I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I assume like it's anything else. There's some fine print that says if you get on here and reply to this email and they own that. So
yeah.
Honestly,
but as a salesperson, I would not want my competitors having access to that data. Like if I'm talking to a prospect and it's going well and they're interested and they're like my competitors are over there like, yeah, well, we can see that this is, I don't want them to know. So like I feel like even in sales, you're like, you might use it, but you don't want other people using your prospect data because they're going to be hounding your customers. So
And honestly, I think a lot of the Zooms, the Teams, all of those platforms, they might end up having some of the best content available. Right, versus just websites. Where websites we have just this, a stream of content, or even Reddit, right? Reddit text back and forth, but with real conversations that are happening on these things and the data that they can mine, not only the audio but the video.
There's gonna be like real time, like you're losing them.
Wait, is that not what Gong already is?
Yeah,
is it? Yeah,
it is.
I don't use Gong. Yeah, is that
Teams has a thing where it's like. So one of my clients, he has kind of a thick Asian accent, so he uses Teams like speech coach to help him go, either speak up or slow down, do this, do that. Oh. So it's monitoring it in real time to kind of give him better practices. Now, everybody who's used it at that company says, I ended up just ignoring it because it always tells me I talk too fast or whatever. But it's kind of an interesting thing that they're doing too. And they're cataloging all of this. Like all of this, and then it's going to be trained for models and all sorts of crazy shit.
So now on to the big question. How do you build a massive TikTok audience?
This might be a little bit of a DeAndre also wanting to just know, how do you build a huge TikTok audience?
Like seriously, when I see things like this, I'm like, that is what I want to know how to do. And I mean, for a lot of people, having 113,000 followers, right? 976,000 likes, like you've achieved something that very few people have been able to do. How do you do it?
Well, this is a fun story because like there is a system by it, but like how this all started was kind of by, like I told you, by accident. Like I just started making TikTok videos to market, and then I accidentally went viral one time, and it was on a video that was like 6 things not to say in an interview, and it was basic stuff like don't talk bad about your last boss and don't complain about the commute, and like and I had this like 1950s music going on in the background, and I had this like shameful like look on my face, and it was just like popping up on the screen like these 6 things not to say. And I woke up the next day and I had like 6,000 followers overnight. Like I went from like a couple hundred, boom, 6,000, 24 hours.
Wow.
And the comments were like going crazy because everyone has something to say. Like, oh, I said that in an interview, or what about this? Or da 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 da. People are having full on fights in the comments. Like there's this all like thousands and thousands. And like people are ripping me to shreds. You know, everybody has. Some people are like, yeah, I totally agree. Some people are ripping me to shreds. It's like I'm like breaking out into highs. I'm like, I have never, but I have this much feedback. Like at one time, I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, so it's like, do I keep riding this wave? Like, I don't know. So I kept making a couple other videos, and then switched roles, and then kind of pivoted my content a little bit. And did a lot of study of the algorithm and what does it make videos do well? How to say a hook, like how you have to have hooks at the beginning of all of your TikTok videos. When you pull in your audience, how do you make it about them? So like my best hook is like, if you're in sales, and then I just start talking, and I'm like, so it pulls in that ideal viewer. And then even like subliminal hooks, which are like sounds, like people will like stir their coffee, which like it's like, you know, if you have headphones on or whatever else, the clinking of the ice glass, like, or even like I'll walk outside and I'll be like filming while walking my dog, and you can hear like the leash slapping against my leg or whatever else, or the wind rustling through, or I'll be like throwing ball with my dog, and it's like, whew, you know, the sound of the like chuck stick like going through the air. So there's other like artistic things that you can do, but the biggest thing is the hook, sounds, and then captions are super important. I saw you guys already do a lot of that on your TikTok. You do the captions, but
you have like on your TikTok, you have pretty much everyone has like that first your cover screen is like majority of its text that says something, right? You find
so having the text above, to attract your ideal viewer, having that hook to, you know, at first, because you only have like 3 or 4 seconds to like hook them in to be like, yes, this video is for me.
Right.
You're going back to my original stuff.
See, this is a new thing. We're a very iterative podcast.
Yeah, you're looking for my original. I'm telling you, I deleted it. Like it got 2 million views, and I couldn't handle the criticism.
So let me. Okay, so
so which one is this one got? So explain to me on your journey here. Like
where was the viral video?
Like we're at the bottom right now.
Yeah. It was somewhere like I think here.
This one, let's watch it.
Or it was somewhere like in this time frame, and then afterwards I made these other videos I was talking about.
What are we rocking? 240 pixels, 240 by 180. What the hell?
Listen, this was an iPhone 5, maybe. I don't know.
I think it might just be how we're sharing it to the screen.
It could be, yeah. Oh no, we're like going down the graveyard with like terrible content. Can we?
No. So, but actually, so again, great content, but and I know you deleted it because of the stress of the bullshit that goes on with it, but it seems like the real way to kind of go viral is you have to have something that is divisive enough. That you're going to get some people that are going to watch it because they agree with you.
Yeah.
You're going to get some people that are going to watch it because they disagree with you. Then they're going to go to the comments and they're going to go to fucking war.
You need your trolls. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
the videos that have done the best for me, because the algorithm cares about comments, shares, and likes, are the ones where people have different opinions and they're going to challenge things.
Yeah.
Like I did one about public school system and just how generally, like, because I went through 4 years of, you know, going to school to be a teacher and looked at the curriculum and all of that, and just how the public school system doesn't teach a lot of things that are actually used in business or life.
No.
Really, I know.
Actually.
Yeah. And so I made a video. I just did like a commentary on that, and it was just like, it wasn't even my video. I was just kind of like, you know, integrating myself and my own thoughts and edits into it, and it got like, you know, 2 million views, and everybody was just like, people love to be negative. They love to hate on
100%.
something. And I'm like, I'm glad we can all agree that the public education system is not preparing people for life and careers. At least not when I was going. I know it's gotten a lot better since then, and there have been improvements, but you know.
Maybe.
So how often are you posting?
Every day.
I mean, how many
Sometimes
times a
multiple
day?
times a day.
At least once a day?
But it's not like systemized. Like, I just
Yeah.
drink coffee, an idea comes, and I shoot it. And that's why as I'm going and transitioning, you know, quitting my job and all of that, I want to be a lot more structured about my content. Actually sit down and just like bust out
Really plan it out.
a ton of stuff. Because right now I just like,
so cool.
I have a break between a meeting, I go outside, or I sit in front of my desk and I talk about a concept or something that I just, you know, applied in a sales call.
I love that because it, you know, it can be applied to almost anything in life, but it's more about just do the thing. Like is this episode 20 or
This is
21?
episode 20.
20. Hey,
Yeah.
20.
We made it.
Yeah. And like episode 1, we came in with a lot of big ideas, and we were like, all right, we're going to do this. And then we realized quickly that, okay, we just need to at bats. We just need to record, get comfortable recording, and then get better. And the next time we're going to just iterate on that. And I think what Andre is kind of getting at too is like, we're kind of on that path with our shorts, and like everything right now has been like, how can we do this at the lowest effort kind of possible, while still getting at bats and learning as we go, and then adding on those layers. And that's just good to hear, because like, and the next question I had was, do you use AI or any sort of tooling when you're generating your content?
So I did recently. I started a series on the book, like How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay,
Great
I'm
book.
gonna plan a series. So yesterday I was just like sitting in front of, and I used ChatGPT to summarize the main points of that hit home in that book. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a video on each one of these points.
Yeah.
And so it can, you know, I think it definitely helps you to organize yourself.
Yeah, and this is a total sidebar. We can take this out if you want. But one thing that this gave me the idea was I follow a lot of like developers on Instagram and TikTok and all that. And like what they're saying is not like new information, but they're putting their opinions and their takes on that information. And I think like I always get stuck in, oh, well, what I say has to be this grandiose original idea that no one's ever had before. And like maybe part of it's like imposter syndrome or whatever. But no, I like that approach. Yeah.
So you said you quit your job. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
On
Cheers.
being a 1099er. Welcome to the party.
Welcome to the club.
So what's going to be the focus for you? What kind of services will you be offering to companies out there?
Yeah, so I kind of, it's a two-part. So I'm really passionate about making content. Love it. It's like my favorite thing to do. If I could just do that all day, I would. So I'll be doing some consulting work for tech companies and social media consulting. So my company for that is called Tech Social. And then on the other front, like a lot of the content that I've made is about sales and how, you know, different soft skills in sales and different things like that. And a lot of people have, you know, reached out to me, asked me to come do coaching or coach their teams or whatever else. I'm actually currently building kind of a course model to be more of like a passive income stream, teaching specifically like body language and tonality within sales specifically, and kind of how to use that in customer interactions.
So real quick, I'm going to just drop a name. Denny Ward, if you happen to be listening to this at Sales Velocity, I think you would be a great asset for him. He's doing a very similar thing. He ended up... Apparently we have trains
I've
right
never
by the
heard of
building.
Train on 465.
It can't be a train.
What is going on?
That was a horn. That was nice.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But so he's kind of doing a similar thing where he was a sales guy. He found some success, and now he's rolled out and started a consulting company that helps salespeople basically be better salespeople. There's a lot of companies that are out there has no really good presence in social media side of things, and I think that those companies would be able to just leverage you just left and right.
Yeah,
And
that's
seriously-
interesting.
Are you looking for, when you say tech social media, are you looking for like the SaaS, the startups? Like, what's your sweet spot on like how you want or the market you're looking for?
So my vision, I'm not closed off to other things, but I am, for that specific brand, like looking at startups and tech companies, because that's the other thing. It's like because I've worked in that world for the past 5 years, like a lot of marketing people don't understand tech and don't know how to translate it into language that people can understand, and I do that. Because I understand the content creation side. I've worked in tech. I've helped hire people in technical roles. I feel like that's kind of like where my strengths are. Not that I wouldn't take on, social media consultings in other industries. Maybe I like kind of niched myself in that name a little bit. But
no, that makes sense. You go to where the product or the people that you know first, and kind of expand from there. So
well, but I mean, again, tech social in terms of 2 terms is pretty broad. I think you can cover a whole whole lot of stuff that you can spin there.
Technos, you could get into technos and social media. I'm not sure. There's a lot of technos still, right?
Technos,
like the music,
like techno music. Oh, I'm thinking of discos. Edit that out.
He's dating himself.
This is an edited podcast. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover on the pod?
Well, are we not going to go through any of those tools, or did you guys want to talk about the?
We can.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was a couple interesting ones on there.
Oh, did somebody share her the document?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah, she has it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I think we can talk about some of them if we want to go through any
Let's
of
do
them.
it. Yeah.
What was the one that you had mentioned earlier? Because
Kite. Flick.
Flick.
That was
Flike?
the one that was most interesting to me.
All right, yeah. So
let's
I think,
talk about what is it? FLIKE.app.
Yeah. And so all of these were the ones that just come
Yeah.
up on our BigCheese Weekly. So this is like us going and trying to grab the latest AI products that are coming out. And I'm going to call it Flick just because I don't like Flike. Like I don't know if it's called Flike, but FLIKE. And they're calling themselves an AI sales co-pilot. And it integrates with LinkedIn, Outreach, Gmail, Sales Loft, Snowflake, and Salesforce. And it does seem like a pretty powerful tool in terms, and price-wise, it looked like there's maybe like $30 a month or whatever that standard is. But I think the AI sales co-pilot technologies are going to be a very interesting tool. But I struggle to see how when Salesforce rolls out their AI, how does it just not eat these other companies? I don't know.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I liked the feature within that where it's talking about pulling in like previous history and like information with the customer. Because I feel like that's the biggest piece of lack right now in sales. Is like, yeah, I can write an email, or yeah, I can do this, but I'm like, I need it to pull, like I needed to read through the whole thread. I need it to pull in the last meeting that I had with them. Or if I'm gonna run a cadence, or I'm gonna run a what did you call it? A sequence.
Sequence, yeah.
Like Gong called it on a customer, I want it to like pull in, hey, in our last conversation you mentioned XYZ. This is why I think that you'd be interested in this feature or whatever else.
But for me, that from a Sales Loft perspective, that's just some technical changes, right? Versus and that's the only thing that I see anytime that there's a new, like I'm an AI for this or an AI for that. I really do view AI as just another form of technology. Right, and it can be implemented, and like there's no moat here that I see that Sales Loft or Salesforce for that matter can't just go and basically just stomp on them and make them completely irrelevant.
Or maybe they're just like, oh, I'm gonna go grab some customers and then try to get acquired by them.
But so from a pricing standpoint, Flike, Fluke, whatever the hell you call yourselves, pronounce it. Put it on the website. Tell us how you pronounce it. $49 a month for a single account. Growth is $79 per user per month. And then, of course, enterprises contact us for later. But the growth one does have HubSpot integration, Outreach, and Sales Loft integrations.
Yeah, I think the context piece is definitely a big missing component. It's anyone I talk to that has an AI idea, it's generally AI for X, and then what they're describing is the brain or the RAG architecture, or basically the database of information that's happened that they're attaching to search and go find the context. So in your case, it's like the most recent emails. And that kind of stuff is like, I'm not actually sure why these, like the Sales Lofts of the world don't have that kind of stuff already, to be perfectly honest with you. But maybe they baby step it into it, where it's like click the emails that you think are relevant to this writing this new one would be like the first step. Maybe they're afraid that, or yeah, I guess it is kind of hard to discern, like, okay, what is relevant? If there's 100 past emails, like what is relevant to this one now? So
So the real question is, would you buy it? Would you buy this product?
Fleek.
Fleek. Can we just call it?
I would
trial
definitely
it?
give it a trial and
All right.
see what the ROI would be. Yeah.
What would you need it to actually do for you to really use it?
Like, is this assuming I have no other tools?
This is your existing, what you currently use.
Well, but she just transitioned to now being on her own. So do you have Sales Loft anymore, or was that with the previous company?
Previously, like relatively recently.
So I don't know. That'll be interesting to see. Like, what does it look like when it's just me? Like,
Right.
Because I won't be necessarily needing this huge
enterprise
CRM.
level,
Yeah,
Right, and that's the piece that I'm kind of curious about, right? Is that now that you're kind of going on your own again? I'm always for anybody who wants to go on their own and not necessarily be part of a big company. So I'd be really curious to see which tools you end up saying, all right, this one's actually worth my time as kind of an independent.
Yes, because they're going to be different.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I think on the independent side, my mind goes to startups and small businesses, and I think that one of the biggest advantages that AI has is kind of like you mentioned, it is in the details, and so like building out the infrastructure from a literature perspective on your sales process and how your like system works. So let's say you start to grow your agency, you have a team, they need information and like how your structure works. Before you'd have to go type it out. Now you can just zoop, this is our entire sales mantra and portfolio, just boom on multiple pages and documents and things like that. So that's just ChatGPT though. There's nothing special to that.
Do we know what Sales Loft is using behind the scenes by chance?
Like,
which AI model that they're actually using?
I don't know.
Yeah, I guess you'd probably maybe look at how the emails are written, and maybe you could kind of discern, but you probably don't know like right out of the gate.
yeah, I started to develop something inside of Sales Loft, and I think that they put some pretty tight guardrails on it too, because obviously ChatGPT can get a little wild, or OpenAI's APIs. But
So then there's AI Steve, and I think this is oops, I shouldn't have done that. This is one thing I think we just need to discuss in terms of product marketing. That name, like the personification of these products, where it's like, this is Steve.
Oh, Devin.
This is
yeah.
Devin. This is Frank. This is blah. It's like, stop it.
Now, the
Just copy
BigCheese
an
did have
Amazon.
names for our...
Well, no, but those were agents. Like the agents had names. So, but we weren't going to market as like Steve.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Like, so I because everybody wants to be the
Siri and
Siri was the
Alexa.
one.
Yeah,
Alexa
yeah.
Cortana back in the day with Microsoft. You know that I think
name.
you have to stop with the personification. Steve, are you kidding me?
That reminds me of that's such an old movie, Multiplicity. Anybody ever seen that movie?
Great movie.
Yeah, it's right.
With what the hell is his name? Not
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
I'm gonna eat a dolphin.
And then there's like 14 or 15 or 20 different ones of them.
No.
It's great.
Want to pet a dolphin.
Okay. So never mind.
Steve looks cool. Steve Jobs.
It is Steve Jobs. That's why it's an AI product growth consultant. You can basically go and get free insights into your product.
Acts like Steve Jobs.
Acts
just
like
a
Steve,
huge
so
asshole.
he's
Demands.
just going to tell you your idea is dog shit.
Work
Just go
harder.
away. What are you doing even here? What am I even talking to you? So never mind. We'll scratch that one.
Was there another one you want to talk about?
No, I the main one was the Flike one. That was interesting. The other one was, what was the BDR one that basically is like your own AI BDR?
Yes.
No.
Ava, the sales rep artisan.
Yeah.
We had Cellmate, which is a revolutionary e-commerce AI-driven cross-listing. Blah, 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 blah.
Was it Ava?
Yeah, I think it was Ava.
Yeah,
that was
Ava.
interesting because there's a lot of people that are asking, like, is AI going to replace the business development rep role? But if it can't, if there's regulation around cold calling, then that just leaves you with emailing and like maybe chatbot stuff on the website with like for incoming prospects.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I
I
really
don't think you replaced the BDRs.
No,
Yeah,
I don't. I honestly struggle with the whole concept that you're going to be replacing anything fully.
Yeah, it's
Right?
it's just another one of those. You replace the 50%,
Manual work.
Exactly.
or you replace the underperformers, and the people who are the overperformers, overachievers are just going to pick up the slack
Right.
and become more efficient, kind of thing.
The people are still you're gonna have autonomous AI agents, no question. They're going to be doing a lot of that kind of back office stuff that we were talking about, operations, optimization, things like that. But there's always going to be a human in the loop. And that human, and so when I was just talking to somebody at the restaurant, Arnie's, that I go to before the podcast for my pizza and my lubrication. And there's this lovely girl that we were just sitting there and we're having a conversation, and the waitress, because she knows I do this podcast, so she was asking what we were covering today.
Oh, nice.
And so the lady next to me started asking about it, and she actually had a lot of strong opinions on how AI is and like what it's doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, you talk a lot about that and just authenticity and like building those relationships, and like you're not going to replace people. Buy from people.
Right.
That we want the communication we want to be sold to in some ways, and so like I guess talk about that of like the fear, like what are the dangers or things that people are doing that aren't working well that they think are going to work right now, like replacing all the representatives or things that just are short-term thoughts that eventually you think are going to come back around.
That's interesting. I don't know if anybody's like really, really replaced a full entire team yet. That I mean,
Yeah.
but I think it's definitely reducing headcount.
Yeah,
I would say.
I totally agree. There's no question that people are going to get that jobs are going to be replaced. Entire employees, I don't think will be reduced. Will it be high performers basically interacting with AI? Maybe low performers potentially being augmented with AI that brings them up to kind of senior levels where we don't have to pay them as much. Sure, I just am not convinced that entire teams and maybe in 5-10 years when we truly have like an AGI going, and that this thing can truly be not just like instructionally smarter than us, but like creatively smarter than us, and like all of the things that AGI should bring. You could see it be a problem then. I just don't see it now.
Well, Elon did say at the end of the year that AI is going to be smarter than all the humans combined.
But I don't. Yeah,
Elon, he tweeted it
but
this morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he did. I saw that too, and I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah.
But being smarter doesn't mean shit to me. Right? There's a lot of people who are way smarter than me that I can outperform because I'm way more creative. Right? I'm way more scrappy. I'm way more retentive.
What does that even mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
does an AI agent? Okay,
Yes.
so an AI agent knows about heart surgery.
Yeah, or quantum physics.
Cool. What can it do with that today?
Yeah. I think all it means is that the richest man in the world has fun tweeting every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pod,
Dude,
a
I'm
social
so...
media platform just to express.
Sidetrack. I came up with a new trick to make Twitter fucking bearable now.
I saw that. It's pretty
By
good.
the way.
I'm gonna implement
Yeah,
that.
I'm serious. If you guys want to do this, this will make Twitter way better for you. You can go to settings, and then it's something like privacy and safety, and then it's like muted words. You're looking for muted words. Go in, put muted words, and I want you to include Trump, Biden, MAGA, libtard, politics, all of these words, and all of a sudden Twitter becomes bearable again.
Twitter knows how to hook me every time. I do not follow this stupid account called End of Wokeness, and it
all the
sends
time.
me an update about every tweet,
day.
and I'm like, I'm a
Woke,
sucker.
that would be another one.
I read it, and I'm like,
I know, and it
Like,
pisses
got
me
me
off, and
again.
I get angry, and I'm just like, oh, I hate where we're going as a country.
Yeah,
right.
man.
And then I'm just like, turn all this off. And look, I'm fine.
deleting.
I've got a bunch of nerds in my feed. It's great. We're talking about technology.
Yeah.
I don't care about the politics. Stop it. Anyway.
Well, before we go off on another tangent, McKenna, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was a ton of fun. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself. My name's DeAndre, Brandon Corbin, Jacob Wise. This is the Big Cheese Podcast. See you guys next week.